Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
I'm telling you, and I'm telling everybody at this table that that's a shark. And I know what a shark looks like because I've seen one up close. And you better do something about this one because I don't intend to go through that hell again.
This is episode 122, recorded August 26, 2020.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will take a look at another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. With me this week is the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Yay!
I thought, that quote just spoiled the whole movie.
Yeah. Did it? It gave everything away? All right. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan. Bill Mulligan is a writer, director, special effects guru, and all-around nice guy. Not too happy with cats today.
No, because this little piece of
furball
fluffiness knocked over a delicious tres leche cake, ruining it. You can't tell from the chroma key here, but this is a ruined cake.
Let them eat cake. All right. Also joining us is Chad Hunt, comic book artist and host of Decades of Horror, the classic era, and laughing up a storm. My name's Bruce. All right. How you doing?
Well, I happen to love cat litter covered tres leche cake. So
I got a slice here for you.
Hand it on.
You know, it's an acquired taste.
It is.
All right.
Crunchy.
If you've stuck with us, and I hope you have, if you're listening to this, you did. We are covering Jaws 2 tonight. This is a big deal. Jaws was one of the biggest films of the 70s, and this was a big deal that they were going to do Jaws 2 in 1978, 3 years later. And while maybe not on the level of Exorcist 2, depending on who you talk to, it may have been a success or a complete disappointment. We'll find out tonight. We're going to let you know. But yes, what are we talking about? We're talking about Jaws 2. Let's get into the skinny of it. Released June 16th, 1978. Director is Jeannot Szwarc. I still didn't do that right. Written by Carl Gottlieb and Howard Sackler. Carl, of course, did the screenplay for the first film. Cast includes Roy Scheider returning, Lorraine Gary returning, Murray Hamilton returning. And now it has Joseph Mascalo, Jeffrey Kramer returning, Colin Wilcox Paxton, Mark Gruner, Ann Dusenberry, Barry Coe, Gary Springer, Donna Wilkes, Gary Dubin, and a very young Keith Gordon. If you followed horror films throughout the decades in the 80s, you will recognize him. And who is now an accomplished director. All right. The tagline was, just when you thought it was safe to go back into the water. I remember that. That was huge.
That's a hell of a tagline right there.
That's the best. That it takes the cake for the best tagline ever for me.
And And the poster is pretty sharp too. There.
Yeah.
I remember that being on a Marvel comic that they did.
Marvel Super Special, number 6.
Bernie Wrightson. Yeah.
I have that.
Wow.
All right. Police Chief Brody must protect citizens of Amity after a second monstrous shark begins terrorizing the waters. The plot is simple, right? That's simple. It is. That's what it is. And
yeah, real simple. It's the plot of Jaws.
Yeah.
Yes. And
without the interesting character.
It feels
very
familiar. Yes. Although we get references to at least one of them. And, of course, Brody is there. Thankfully, at least. All right, let's find out. What we do is we find out what our first impressions are. We have a little discussion about it, and then we wrap things up. And I think tonight, I really want to know what a favorite scene is. So we are going to end with that tonight. And
cool.
Then we chat about some other stuff and end the day. Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, let's do our first impression. When did you see this first? Did you see it back in 1978, or did you see it like recently? And what did you think? It's going to be unavoidable to compare this to the original, so let's just dive into that. Bill, was this your choice?
Nope.
Chad's.
It's Chad's choice. Well then, Chad, you are first.
Me first?
See.
I saw this in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And I followed it closely. I bought up every National Enquirer, anything that had a picture of Jaws 2 on it and the production of it and how the production was going. I was such a fan of the first Jaws. I knew that I couldn't wait for this movie to come out. And I remember as a young lad sitting in the theater watching it, I so wanted to see Matt Hooper back in the movie. And I remember not liking it so much that Brody was kind of on his own for this time out. And it took away a little bit of that adventurous feel that the original Jaws had. But so in that way, it was always inferior to the first Jaws. But I still look at the first two as companion pieces. You know, the third and fourth one are their own little things that maybe we'll touch on in one of the other decades of horrors at some point or another. But I found myself really loving Roy Scheider's performance as Brody. He really, despite all the things you hear of the confrontations on set, the fist fights on set between him and the director, I got the feeling that he really was trying to do the best that he could and make Brody a good character, and he did. I really think he did. This one of the scenes that stood out to me over the years watching this is where Brody sort of panics and starts when he sees the group of bluefish in the water, and he starts shooting. And his little boy Sean was helping him pick up the bullet casings off the sand, and he's sort of looking at his son like that. That still gets me. It really does. It shows. It brought a humanness to that character, and kept that story grounded in the reality that these are just real people facing an extraordinary threat. This isn't Jason Statham or you know, Samuel L. Jackson fighting super smart sharks or megalodons. This is just an ordinary man who's afraid of the water, that's trying to protect his family from this giant shark threat and protect his family and the people in that town and do his job. And I thought that was the core of this that really pulled that movie together for me and made me care about it. You know, where the other sequels that came along did not really do that. Roy Scheider's performance here was really what the glue that held this film together to me, because you still had Murray Hamilton and all those other guys that doing the same kind of role. There's no threat out there. There's no shark, this and that. You still had them doing their thing from the previous movie, but you saw the results of a man who had gone through this already and knew what the threat was and knew what the damage it could cause and was trying desperately to do something about it. And despite opposition from all sides, and that sounds like the plot from the first one, but it was even more, it brought it even home more so in this one because he already knew what was going on. So I enjoy this movie tremendously. It gets a lot of flack for, how did another shark come in there? And which led me to read the novelization of this movie, and which explains a lot that the movie didn't. First of all, it told the story from the shark's point of view in some of it. It had a few other little mafia type subplots with the resort and that hotel and that kind of thing, which didn't really matter to me much. But it told from the point of view of the shark. The shark was actually the mate of the first shark and was actually pregnant, which was we talked about this in our chat beforehand about why this shark was so voracious and how it had a bottomless stomach and this. Well, that's why, because it was pregnant and was just constantly looking for something to eat. And even at the end, when the shark was electrocuted, the shark gave birth to this next shark, which supposedly goes on to be the next
revenge.
shark. The revenge. But I enjoy this movie immensely. Nowhere near the first Jaws at all, but as far as sequels go, you can't ask for much better. I thought it was, and it's really enjoyable for me to watch.
Did you like it back in '78, or is this now that you're appreciating it more?
I did like it, but for different childhood reasons. It was a cool shark, and it was a cool monster, and it was eating people, and that kind of thing. But as I've watched it over the years, some of the more subtle things in the script and the performances spoke to me in different ways. So nice. I enjoy it. I enjoy it in a different way now, I guess.
Nice. Well, the budget for this was $20 million, and I've heard up to $30 million. Regardless, it made $80 million at the box, so it did good back in the day. It is rumored to be like one of the most expensive films of that time. Interestingly enough, which is the opposite of Jaws. Although maybe Jaws did become one because didn't they keep sinking money into that?
Oh yeah.
No pun intended. But let's keep finding out what we thought of this. Bill, now's your time. What is your first impression of Jaws 2, and when did you first see it?
I saw it probably the week it came out at the theater. And I was disappointed because I love Jaws so much. I mean, that movie played all summer. It came to a theater, and for the rest of the summer, if you wanted to watch a movie, it was pretty much Jaws. Movies didn't have the turnover that they do now. Jaws 2 was a disappointment at the time, and now I realize that it pretty much set the template for disappointing sequels to great movies. It just, Roy Scheider carries the movie. You take him out of the movie, and you have Jaws 3 and Jaws 4 and any other shark movie, of which there are millions now. He really is the only, the best part of the movie, anchors it, makes you care. Didn't really care that much about the teenagers, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because they're the ones in peril. I just didn't think their characters were all that well written or that interesting. But he's a great character. It's just the movie. And look, I enjoy watching it. It's an entertaining waste of time. My wife and I watched it the other day, and we enjoyed ourselves. So it's not that kind of bad. But compared to, and you shouldn't compare it to Jaws, but you do. It's just so average. Like, there's no surprises, there's no shocks. Literally, and I was a kid. I mean, I wasn't that old when this movie came out, but even though I wasn't into film the way I am now, when they had that scene in the middle of nothing, that the guys are trawling and they pull up this cable and then drop it, and then we go to the next scene, you're like, I said to myself, there's absolutely no purpose for what I just saw, other than the fact that thing's going to come in. And I already knew the ending of the movie. I think I even had a visual in my head, someone's going to be swimming and the thing's going to attack them, but they're going to get wrapped up in the cable and it's going to get electrocuted. And, there's ways of introducing things that don't immediately scream, this is going to be the climax of your movie, but they were not able to pull that off. And the shark is just as lousy as the shark in the first one, but they show him a lot more.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
But for all my complaining, I enjoy the movie, and it's definitely by far the best Jaws sequel, which is the faintest praise that I have ever given a film.
Yes. I will say that some of the shots chasing the fin work really well. There's a couple really good ones that I remember being impressed with as I was watching it. All right, Jeff Mohr, you're up next. That's not Jeff Mohr. That is Bill Mulligan. Jeff Mohr, you're up next. What is your first?
I'll take it, but Bill
2?
might not like.
Yeah,
handsome Bill Mulligan.
And when did you first see Jaws 2?
I'm pretty sure I saw the video. I'm kind of I don't know, for a long time, maybe even now, I'm a bit snooty about sequels. I've got to wait until I hear that it's decent before I spend my time with it, because there's so many bad ones. So I don't think I saw this till it was at the video store. Now, I guess, I kind of like Bill. I enjoyed it, but there were too many goofy things that happened that kind of set me off, I guess. Weird little things. Like he mentioned the cable. For me, it was the shark expert that shows up and really doesn't do anything.
At all. At all.
Yeah. Says, could be a shark, could be a killer whale. Okay. And that's the last we hear of her. Just that one short scene. Maybe they didn't want to compete with Hooper. I don't know. But
she would have been a cool character to carry on throughout the movie, too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I thought. There's another one of those throwbacks too, where the guy talks about the sound bothers the shark, and he says any low frequency rhythmic vibration, and like banging a paddle on an underwater cable. that was another one of those. What do they call it? Chekhov's guns. I'm going to tell you now, and then later on, I'm going to use that. I actually liked the shark, with the exception of a couple scenes. I really liked the swimming through the water, with the overhead shot. I thought looked pretty good, and the fin breaking the surface of the water. Those looked pretty good, I thought. There's a couple pretty bad ones, but okay. They did a pretty good job with what they had. I liked, the actors are decent. It was cool seeing Keith Gordon in this and having kind of a decent part. I liked all the kids. There wasn't any of them. They start off kind of making one of them to seem kind of obnoxious, but the kid that describes the breasts on the new girl. But in the end, he turns out kind of okay, right? I mean, there's no real dickheads that stand out and keep doing stupid things.
Yeah, because one of the kids is Mayor Vaughn's kid, and he's the one that's the dick. But they all turn out okay.
Larry Jr. When it comes time to get down to it, try to save themselves, they all work together. The one other shoot, I just lost it. Well, it'll come back to me, I guess. We can talk about some of this stuff later, but this is early on. When the boat blows up, what the hell was she doing with that gas tank? Was she going to use that as a club?
We see this happen a lot in movies, that people should never do anything with gas tanks. It just
I mean,
I don't know what she was
doing. Who keeps a gas tank in the boat with the lid off?
With the lid off
or loose? Because it won't work if the lid's loose anyway. Because you won't build up pressure. And then what was she going to do with the thing? So I don't know. Just stuff like that, kind of.
I mean, it would have made sense if she was using it, right? But
now, was she the reason why the shark was scarred? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
They should have done more with that, because that would take away. The model there, when you show the model in limited amounts, it's good. But when you see the full face, because they keep cutting back to real pictures of real sharks, and real sharks are beautiful and have this lovely way they move in the water, and then you cut to the animatronic thing that is just it is just so immobile, and they're just giving you the 7 seconds before it sank and spewed oil all over the ocean. So I don't know why. I do know why it's so difficult, because anytime you make an animatronic, you could have Stan Winston making it for you. Once you put it in the ocean, it's like acid. It just destroys things, and sand and barnacles and God knows what. Salt gets in there. It's awful. I mean, the beach kicks your butt when you go there. Just imagine an expensive piece of machinery that depends on all the wires working correctly. It's a
think about it. They had no CGI.
Nope.
They had no way of making it look realistic via computer back then. They had to go with practical, and I think that's the best they can do. And I think this shark is an improvement over the original. Bruce,
probably,
as far as the hinge of the jaw, when it would open, you didn't see that little pinch right there in the corner as much like you did in the first jaw. So I think the shark itself aesthetically was an improvement, but they were doing. I just got the feeling they were doing the best that they can to create something monstrous and scary with what they had. They had no way of doing this on a computer or anything like that, and it did look fake in some ways, but still, I take myself back to my little 12-year-old self or whatever that was watching this, and I was just going, "This is some scary shit." It's a shark. It's a monster shark. It's after everybody. I'm looking at it now. It sort of combines the way I look at the movie now with the way I looked at it then, as far as a monster. This is a monster movie. That's when it comes down to it. That's what it is. So, sometimes the shark wouldn't have the scar on it that it was supposed to have.
It got better,
but he would get better, and then the next scene he would have the scars or whatever. But I don't know. You just kind of have to go with it, and that's me anyway. And I know everybody looks at things different.
No, I felt the same way because I saw this in '78 in the theater, and I was excited. I already told you I bought the Marvel comic. I was like, I thought it was Gene Colan, but maybe I was
Gene Colan. Yeah.
What did I say? Did I say Bernie Wrightson?
You did.
Yeah.
Gene Colan is absolutely right. I'm an idiot.
But I remember being horribly disappointed by this because it lost all the sense of adventure, because that's the difference between this one. Like you said, this is a monster movie. The other one was a little bit more Moby Dick, right? A little bit more. Yeah. And it didn't really have that. It didn't have that, that urgency. The really not everybody knew about the shark, where everybody knew about the shark and Jaws, right? So it was this big, huge thing, and here it was, it's pretty much Brody and a few and all the kids, right? They're the only ones really know about the shark. Everybody else knows about our dead. And then there's that helicopter scene, which granted, this helicopter scene is better than the helicopter scene in Great White, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
By a long shot. I really thought it was it kind of like took me way out of it, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And the boat scene. So the actual interactions with the shark really didn't work for me until the very end. And even then I was kind of like, how did these kids run into each other? Like, it's like, every single boat gets disabled.
It's a big ocean.
Like, how is this? Come on, that's a little too quinky-dinkle, right? But I mean, I know why they had to do it. They had to get these, them grouped together, because the only one doesn't skedaddles, right? And for no good reason, because he's okay by the time they find him. It's like, well, you could have stayed and helped, but no, you left. So I really had a hard time enjoying this, and I remember being so let down by this movie. Now, it's also one that I've never seen Jaws for the Revenge.
Oh God,
I've never done it.
You're a good man.
I don't know why. I love Jaws. So
I can think of
maybe it's because I love Jaws.
If you love Jaws, you'll never.
But I love Jaws 3 because it's so stupid, right?
Yeah,
it is.
But it's because it's so stupid. It just goes.
That's the one with Dennis Quaid, right?
Yeah, it just kind of owns
it. was 3D. It was great in 3D.
Yeah. It says, we're a stupid movie and we know it. Come watch us. And I go, okay. But this one takes itself seriously, and it just kind of. Now, is Brody good? Or, Scheider is Brody? Yeah, but Brody worked because he played off these other two characters so well, right?
Yeah.
And it really missed at least one character to play off of. It needed somebody to go on this with them. Just needed a Hooper type. It didn't have to be Hooper. It could have even been the deputy if they had made him a bigger character. It could have been anybody, but it just needed somebody with a lot of screen chemistry to play off of and really make it work, like the first three, right? It didn't have to be three. It could have been just two. So I really missed that. And like you said, Jeff, you didn't really care for the kids. Although Donna Wilkes as Jackie is a really good screamer.
I thought she was really good at being scared out of her wits.
Yes. And then the other girl's a good screamer too. The one that
they were good victims.
Yes,
Tina.
Tina. Yeah, the one that's in the.
You mentioned her name though, Doc, Donna Wilkes. I have to throw out my Rory Calhoun connection.
Yeah,
she was in an '80s movie called Angel with Rory Calhoun. Okay.
Of course,
Angel.
of course she was. Yes. Done.
You know what really gets me about this movie, though? Again, I couldn't, even as a kid, I couldn't get over this. There is no way that mayor is still the mayor of that town. That guy would have been run out of town on a rail, tarred and feathered, hung out to dry. And there he is still wearing those hideous suits.
And it's 5 years, right? And didn't they say it was 5 years?
Yeah,
still,
3 or 4 years, yeah.
And he still doesn't want to close the beach down. It's like, dude, first of all, in real life, Brody would be a hero. A hero. They'd be making movies about him. Well, they did. He wouldn't be getting fired. If Brody, the hero, the most important thing that ever happened in this town, came out and said, I think there's a shark out there, people would totally forgive shooting some bluefish or whatever. The mayor and the subplot with the mafia type guy goes nowhere. This movie just, you almost have to pretend that Jaws didn't happen for this movie to make any sense.
Kind of.
Well, and the firing really doesn't have any effect whatsoever on the
on the movie.
The story.
Yeah. It just gives Lorraine.
He just goes and does whatever he wants to anyway.
Man.
Too much sailing. You talked about the kids. Too much sailing.
Yeah.
I thought they could have cut a few minutes of sailing.
They're
having.
They're such good sailors.
Yeah, and one of the better shots is with the sailing because of the fins like racing along with them, and you're
right.
You're kind of there's actually you're in the foreground, the sharks in the background, your stuff in the middle ground, and so it really works because you're following, or maybe the sharks in like middle ground somewhere, not all the way in the background.
I gotta say though, for such great sailors, these kids don't seem to be able to stay on a freaking boat. Like if there's a shark, okay, even if there isn't a shark in the water. Well, there is sharks. I know there's sharks in water. So I'm going to have a hand on a rope at all times. If I'm on a boat, I have life preserver or my hand is gripping something I can hang on to. These guys, they're just standing up. Why? And then when the shark bumps into them for the 20th time, they fall into the water for the 20th time. It gets irritating. After a while, it's like, you deserve to die.
Maybe.
Fight. Do something. Defend yourself.
Let's talk about Roy Scheider just for a bit, because he was originally he originally wasn't going to be in this movie. They weren't going to do it, right? He was going to be in The Deer Hunter, another Universal film, right? Yeah. And he backed out of it at the
big mistake.
It was given the results of that film, but because that led to conflicts with Universal, they said, in which he had a multi-film contract, if he did this film, they'd forgive him.
Right.
So there he is. He did the film because I made the comment on the pre-show that I didn't get the sense that he wanted to be in this movie the way he was acting, because it was always, it's not that he's doing a bad job. It just, there's a difference between this Brody and the Brody that's in the first film as far as the approach. And it just left me with that. And then of course he didn't get along with the director, did he?
No.
Did he literally have fistfights with him?
Apparently,
they got into some physical altercations, yeah. But I still felt like, even though he probably didn't want to be there, and he did not want to, redo this role, I still felt like he was trying to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. That's just me because there's just a few little scenes like. The interactions with his kids and stuff like that, where he was trying to portray a man who had been through a trauma like this, and now he's having to deal with the aftermath of it happening again. And that's just what I got. That's what I got from it.
I think you're right. I think you're right because otherwise why get in arguments with the director if you're just mailing it in to satisfy you. Yeah.
I think the problem was, as someone pointed out, there just weren't that many good characters for him to play off of. I think he's good with the scenes with the wife and the scenes with the kids because he has something to do. Roy Scheider was a major actor although it's surprising how toward the end his career kind of dropped off. He wasn't a typical leading man. He didn't have the leading man looks. I mean, he had kind of an everyman quality to him, which really worked well for something like this because you can put yourself in his position. He's not a superhero, although in this movie he kind of is. Running out there, grabbing cables, electrocuting sharks. And that just seems a little, for a guy who's afraid of the water, he takes to it pretty well. But I really, it is too bad that there weren't some good characters for him to work with, because I think that's really the first Jaws is like one of those men's adventure magazines. It really is. You're right. Moby Dick. It's
like a pulp. It's like a pulp magazine.
Three completely different guys who come together, face adversary. Kind of bond. One of them gets taken out, and the two are best friends forever. And there was nothing like that here.
Yeah. Of course, before this, he did Sorcerer, which is a film
that's a great movie.
Yeah, and is that genre at all? To be
no, it's tense.
Really it's tense, right? It's
like a thriller. Yeah.
I remember being so disappointed going to that movie because it was by the guy who did The Exorcist, and it's called Sorcerer. So I'm thinking, and then I go there and I realize by halfway through there are no switches in this movie. So, but it's a great yarn. I mean, there's a
pretty bad movie. Pretty bad bridge there, though.
Oh God, yeah.
And then, of course, after this, he did All That Jazz.
Yeah.
That was a different role.
He was brilliant. I'll take it back. He was
a
great leading man in that movie. He was brilliant in that. That you're absolutely right. That's one of my favorites, actually.
Well, like I brought up before, that everyman quality that he had made him even more heroic. That he overcome his fear of the water, and I'm talking about the first Jaws now, and he had that fear of the water. But he overcame all that, and that's the true. If you're going to write a story about a hero, they overcome their shortcomings and their fears, and that's the whole journey of a character in a movie and an arc, which he had that. This is just going to sound like I'm just defending this movie from you guys constantly. But I just feel like we're dealing with the aftermath of all that and how he's dealing with life in general, and having to deal with this again now that his kids are involved, and that kind of thing. Which this thing went through a lot of rewrites and wasn't even finished. The script wasn't even finished when they started filming it. And that kind of thing, which always is problems right there. But I'll defend Roy Scheider to the finish in this, because I thought he really pulled off some emotionally satisfying moments in this, as far as his character went, and he tried to do the best that he could. I really believe that.
Yeah. Now, of course, he also did The French Connection, right? And the 7-Ups were another great 70s film.
Is good.
Yeah. Now, he did a couple horror films. Hang on a minute, Jeff. He did a couple horror films. Yep. And Jeff, early in 1964, he did a horror film. What is it?
I don't know.
You did too.
Oh, wait. It's terrible. What was it?
Curse of the Living Corpse?
Curse of the Living Corpse.
That's it.
Yes. And he is such a douche in that movie. Such a douche. Have you seen it, Bill?
Yeah, that movie's a douche. It's terrible.
That whole movie's a douche. But anyway, all right. So
you watch that movie and you think none of these people are going anywhere. Well, it just shows you everyone's got to start somewhere.
Well, he kept, he kept doing some decent movies, at least up through, he did Blue Thunder in 2010, and 52 Pickup was from a Elmer Leonard book, I believe. Naked Lunch.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't till maybe
he worked with a lot of good directors. That's true.
Had a part on Sequest. Seems to me like that. Didn't you watch that, Chad, or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, Sequest TV show. Yeah.
So anyway,
Punisher.
I just think some of the ideas they had before they made this one, the ideas they were throwing out sounded way more interesting.
They did.
The one about doing a prequel about the Indianapolis would have been amazing. And
that would have been a much better way to go.
What about the comedy? Jaws 3.
Jaws 3, People Zero.
People Zero. Yeah.
But there was, so one of the early ideas, and I know this does not sound even the least bit exciting to most people, but I think this would have been great, is that 5 years later, Amity, it's the place is just in economic devastation because nobody goes to the beach anymore. And and that would put him, so that would be, because here now he wouldn't be a hero. They're just beginning to build back. Here comes this sketchy guy who's going to put some money into it, and then Chief Brody, reliving his shark hunting days, insists there's a shark out there, and the whole town would be against him. And it would be like the people now, they're trying to reopen everything during the pandemic and all. I mean, you could get into some interesting social commentary and all, but of course, none of that has to do much with a real shark. And I think they wanted to go where the money was, which was, let's tell a tale about a shark that is eating people. I don't care if she's pregnant. A shark eats a whole teenager. That fills up a shark's belly. Sharks eat seals, which are not that big. And they eat a seal, and then they don't eat again for like weeks or months because it takes a while to digest it. They don't chew.
Well, and he starts with
there's
two
no
divers.
way you could fit everything into this shark's belly. Unless she was having twins or something. It makes no sense that she's got a hankering for divers. And how many people got eaten in this movie?
A lot.
They actually had to reduce. They actually had to cut back the number of people that died because they were going to give them an R if they didn't. So let's talk about that's one of our
that's why we don't see the helicopter guy get it.
That's some of our flashbacks here. Right. So let's talk about other shark movies real quick because this whole thing brought on like a whole bunch of like ripoffs, which outside of water and fish you could include Grizzly and the car. But you have Orca from 1977, right?
Oh God.
Piranha from 1978. Tentacles, which is an octopus. Killer Fish, which is Barracuda or
Piranha. Lee Majors, Karen Black, and Piranha.
Yeah, Barracuda. Tintorera, the killer shark.
Yeah.
Blood Beach, which I think is like some kind of, that one's weird. Piranha to the Spawning. The last shark,
one's weird.
The last shark, which is also called Great White, right? That's the one
that's such a rip-off of Jaws.
Now that movie, oh my God. Yeah. Okay, so first off, that movie is so much a ripoff of Jaws that it got shelved for many lost.
They sued.
They sued them and they lost. And but it has recently, you can catch it right with our digital age. I caught it about a year ago, maybe less.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You will never laugh so hard in the wrong places as you will with this movie.
Terrible. Do you remember Blue Water, White Death? What a great title.
Yes, Blue Water, White Death.
That's a great title.
Mako, Jaws of Death.
Mako,
Jaws in here somewhere. Up from the Depths, Humanoids from Deep, Screamers, Devilfish, Mako, Jaws of Death. So, wow, did we get our fill of shark movies between 75 and 85? It just 10 years.
And you know what? If you read an interview with any of the people who made these shark movies, the interviews are all completely the same. It's like, we had no idea how difficult it would be to shoot in the water with the mechanical devilfish, whatever. How many times does this lesson have to be learned? At least the folks who made Grizzly, like, we're going to rip off Jaws, but we're not going to shoot in the ocean because that's stupid. We'll just, we'll make Grizzly. And they did, and it was great. It is, next to Great White, probably the biggest ripoff of Jaws ever. But they couldn't get sued because it's like, what are you talking about? It's about a grizzly bear. He's not in the water.
And look at it. If you compare how the car is built, not the car itself, but the story of the car, it is so much a Jaws ripoff.
And in fairness to Jaws 2, Grizzly 2 is much worse.
And so is Exorcist 2, for that matter. What about Damien and Omen 2? Better, worse, better, worse.
Not as good as the original, but
not as good.
No.
It's an actual sequel. I mean, it continues the story. Yeah. It takes the first one and continues the story, so it's not just a retread. So I'll give Omen 2 a little bit of credit for that. I've already forgotten about it though. You know,
Have you?
I'm trying to keep track
know.
of which one is Omen 2 and which one is Omen 3. It's like after a while they all start blending together.
I don't know. I could. Well, I don't know. The whole bird scene and the whole elevator scene. But that's another podcast. We need to do that one.
Yeah, we do. We do.
It's got some really like that's a kill. That's a kill. All right, back to Jaws 2 though. Somebody jump in with me on this comment. I don't like the underwater shots in this movie. I thought, other than maybe a couple of, shark.
Yeah.
Shots, I didn't think it was filmed very well.
Yeah, it seems a little dingy. And I realize that's what the ocean actually looks like, which is why it's so freaking terrifying. When you're actually in the ocean, you're snorkeling or whatever, it's not crystal clear. It's like you can't see beyond your hand. So there could be a giant squid or shark or anything just within reach, and you can reach out and touch it. And that's one reason why I'm here and not in the ocean, even as we speak. But when I'm in a movie, I want to see, even if it means you got to go down to Wicky-Wacky Springs in Florida and film in the crystal clear water, fine, do that, because I want to be able to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, Revenge did that. Jaws the Revenge did that.
They did. That didn't do well.
But everybody hates that.
I take it back.
Take it back.
Terrible.
I was actually thinking the water was too clear. I'm like going, that ain't the way it looks off the Jersey shore. I don't think.
That's true.
That's true.
Anyway.
They could have put a few more
I lived in Florida. I grew up in Florida. And I lived about 5 miles from the beach. So I was there all the time. Mm-hmm. And you can't, if you put your hand out in front of you, that's all you can see. Past your hand, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And you have to get into the Caribbean to actually get.
You have to go way down near the Keys to be able to see that clearly. So, but that's part of the fear. There's one scene in there when the one guy that got the bends from going up so fast, he was sort of la 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 along the bottom, and then all of a sudden, whoop! There's the shark. That was one of the scariest freaking scenes in a Jaws movie that I've ever seen, because the shark just comes out of nowhere, and it just scared the bejesus out of me, and still does. It scared me this time when I watched it.
Yeah,
because the shark is just there all of a sudden, out of nowhere.
Yeah, because when the shark attacks the sailboats, it's so telegraphed, and and we spend so much time with it, but I don't know.
It felt like a retread of the scene in the first movie where the head pops out of the boat. Yeah, here's our shock shot,
but it worked. It worked just like that scene did.
And his reaction is what my reaction would be. I mean, if I were scuba diving, which will never happen, and I saw a shark head turn around, there it is, I would blow my breathing apparatus right out of my mouth, and then I would scramble up to the top until I died of a cerebral hemorrhage from my blood boiling like a shaken can of Dr. Pepper. That's I'm not going to stay down there and get eaten by the shark. I'll take my chance with the bends.
Yeah. They didn't really explain that, but that's what it was, right? Any other movie we would have had a 5-minute.
I think there was one mention of it. When they were hauling him off.
They said he had an embolism, but it's the bends. When you go to the surface too quickly, you get nitrogen bubbles form in your bloodstream.
Yep.
Just stay out of the ocean, folks. Obviously, we were not meant to be there. How many more messages does God have to send before you get it?
Don't do it in 2020. Whatever you do, wait.
No.
No. Yeah.
Not going to help you. All right.
That's a new movie, actually. COVID Shark.
It might actually be, so shut up.
You listen.
Someone on the Sci-Fi Channel is going to hear that, like, genius. We're not going to pay Chad anything.
Has there ever been a corn shark?
Corn shark?
Well, I could definitely see a dorsal fin
Jeff's
gliding
in Iowa,
through a
everybody.
cornfield, right?
Yeah.
Everybody should know Jeff lives in Iowa.
You step 2 foot into the cornfield and you can't see anything else.
You might get one floating in on that land hurricane you guys are.
There's too many children in the corn to.
Yeah.
Now the sharks keep that down.
Yeah, right. Well.
All right, yeah. Where else do we want to go with this? There's a lot to talk about. but I think we have, and we should probably wrap it up here. So I want to get a final thought. Is this the best they could have done? Where could they have gone? Where did they go wrong? We've kind of done that, but let's sum it up as briefly as possible. But I do want to know your favorite scene. I kind of feel like I know Chad's. And if this isn't the second best shark movie, what is? All right. Chad, you're up first.
I have a lot of favorite scenes in here.
Go for it. Just one now.
My favorite scene that really, and I've mentioned this already, but it really captured the whole Brody's whole motivation in this movie when his son was helping him pick the bullet casings off the beach.
Oh,
and he was looking at his son, and to me, he was just like, this is crazy, but I have to, it was just it just touched my heart for some reason. And I don't know if it's because I have a son, or anything like that, but it just, this whole movie is not so much about the shark, the teenagers, but it's Brody's story, even more so than the first one. And mainly because he didn't have the Quint or Hooper there to help him. So this movie had to be about him. Mm-hmm. And I felt in a lot of ways it really delivered on that end. Of course, in no way, shape, and form is it on par with the first movie, but it definitely, like Bill said, it's the best Jaws sequel, and it's better than a lot of shark movies that came out at the time. So I feel like they did. Who's to say what studios think and this and that, or what they're thinking when they make these movies? But I thought it was the best. It was a good sequel, that it entertained me, and I was interested in the characters, Brody especially as a character, and his family, where they were after all the events of the first film happened. So, yeah, I like this movie a lot. I would even say I love this movie. Not the best, like I said, not the best movie going, but I'll watch it every time, and I'll watch it all the way through and not be bored by it, and I'll be entertained by it and engaged with it. So that's what my recommendation for it is, and my favorite scene.
Very nice. All right, Bill, you're up next.
That's actually a great call on that scene, because you're right, that is really touching, really good. And my favorite scene, this is probably a weird one to pick, but it comes a little earlier, but ties into that one. I just love the shots, and they kind of come out of nowhere, and they're like the artsiest part of the whole film when we suddenly cut to the close-ups of him making his cyanide bullets. It's no music, it's super sharp close-up, and he's dropping the cyanide into the hollow bullets, and then he gets some candle wax and he drops it on. And I remember watching that, and I was transfixed on what a cool idea that was. And yeah, man, this guy's fighting back, and I didn't even know you could do that. I'm still not sure you can do that. I'm a little leery on the idea that the wax is going to stay on the bullet when it gets fired. It just seems like it's going to gum up your. I don't know if it would work. I don't recommend anyone trying this at home. But yeah, you know what? If I were going out to face a shark, that's the kind of nonsense I would do. I'd be like, okay, I got a gun, but is that enough? I've got hollow point bullets, but is that enough? How about if I fill cyanide in here? It's like if I were going after vampires, hollow point bullets filled with holy water, dribbled from wax from a candle blessed by the Pope. I mean, I would be covering every possible conceivable thing. This is an uber weapon. This is the gun of God, So I just love that shot. I love that shot. And as far as movies go, no, it's the second best Jaws film, and that is faint praise. I think, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. I believe it might have been called The Cove, where the girl's a surfboarder.
Shallows.
And The Shallows. I like that one better. Although, again, that is another one of those sharks that eats at least 11 more people than any one shark could ever eat. It's like this shark has a grudge against the cast members because it just keeps eating them, and there's nowhere it could put them at this point. It's sharks are not these malicious, evil creatures, which is the one down point of all these shark movies. That shark, for a while there, it was great sport to go out and go hunting for sharks, not for food or anything, but just to kill them.
Yeah.
And
the one thing about the shallows is that he was protecting his food source, right? That had washed into the shallows. So, but hey, it was an excuse. That's all it needed.
Sharks are, they're beautiful creatures, but they are among the dumbest of God's creations. They have no thought process going on whatsoever. I mean, Hooper said it best. All they do is swim, eat, and make baby sharks.
Yeah.
And you know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm glad, actually, that Hooper didn't come back, because I don't think there's any way he could have survived this movie. It's hard to imagine that they would tell the same story exactly twice and have these two guys go. It seems like the obvious storyline is they team up, they go out there, and one of them has to make the sacrifice, and it's not going to be Brody.
No.
And Hooper did die in the original novel. He was also not really a nice guy. So it just feels like this would have been a chance to have that play with the audience that way and have him go out heroically, but be taken out. That would be his logical story arc. And I liked Hooper. Hooper's a great character, so I'm kind of glad he didn't come back. I hate sequels to movies that kill off characters who survived the first movie. I never have liked it, and I never will like it. Yeah, Alien 3, I'm looking straight at you.
Yeah, that never happens. Never happens. Jeff Mohr, wrap it up, sir.
So speaking of Hooper
and
cyanide bullets, so Hooper, who calls them to tell them he can't call them because he's on a boat where he doesn't have any phone service or something.
Somebody else calls. He didn't call it.
But he didn't. They didn't say that though.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they said, because I listened to it twice. Maybe she misspoke the line, but and the cyanide bullets.
What happens to those? Are those the ones?
That's after he shoots them all in the air, right? Or shoots them at the blue.
Yeah, that's after he shoots the blue.
Yeah, so those never come into play, right? It's a cool scene, but they never come into play.
I thought, did he do it? Did he shoot the bluefish with him? He didn't shoot.
I thought those were the ones he shot the bluefish.
I thought he shot the bluefish.
Oh, I thought it came afterwards. I could be wrong.
We need to watch it again.
Which is probably, now you think about it, that probably is a good reason to get fired, because if you're the sheriff and you're firing cyanide bullets at a crowded beach, maybe you need to take a little time off and reflect on things.
Yes.
Yeah, it may not be a popular call, but it might have been the right call. Yeah.
There was one. Oh, Szwarc. This is the second movie of his we've done.
Bug. I love Bug.
And in terms of shark movies, this is a decent shark movie for the time. And I've Chad, the way you describe it reminds me a lot of how we talk about classic era stuff. It's really about the time when you saw it, how old you were, and the impression it made, and what your exposure was, and I think we mentioned that a lot. So it can make an impression on you. I was 25 when this came out. So it was, I don't know why, but I was already sort of, when the King Kong came out with oh my God, we're going to have this wonderful animated King Kong, which was pretty cool, but nothing was ever going to live up to the build up. So let's see. So this is worth watching, but I like some of the new ones that are coming out. The one that you mentioned, Swallows. I actually kind of like 47.
Swallows is a different genre.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Did
I say Swallows?
That's a different genre altogether.
Yeah. Is that an Ed Wood movie? I don't know.
It sounds like an X-rated movie. There was one called.
It's an Ed I Got Wood movie.
It's a sequel to Spit.
Oh wow, that's great.
So yeah, Shallows, 47 meters down. I like that too, although totally different type.
Where's the love for Deep Blue Sea? That was fun.
It was fun. It's dumb, but it's fun. But anyway, so I don't know. Favorite scene? You know what? I'm going to take the. I'm going to take the shove the cable in the shark's mouth. As unrealistic as it is, it was cool. Like no way was this shark flying full tilt boogie at Roy Scheider in his little rubber raft, and he comes off totally unscathed and not even knocked out of his raft or anything. So, but it was cool. I thought it was cool. I loved the sparklers and the flames and the fireworks.
The sparklers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for a light show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Favorite scene. You know, this was a hard one for me to pick a favorite scene. That Chad, I think, picked the most important scene and the poignant scene, but maybe it's that girl screaming like crazy, because man, I believed her. I believed she was afraid that shark was going to get her. So even though it was silly that all those sailboats bumped into each other, crashed into each other, that at that point when she was screaming and the shark was circling, I believed it. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Although I did like the line that says, what's the reef they were going to? They were going to
Cable Junction.
Cable Junction, because what's after Cable Junction? And they said
Cuba.
You know, they said Ireland. Yeah, they said Ireland. Which I thought was hilarious.
Oh yeah, Ireland. Yeah, that's right.
So,
actually, that was a great line too, Doc. When Brody says, "What's with all the people here in the boats?" She looks at him and goes, "It's an island."
It's an island. Right? All right. Well,
the thing that made me think of Cuba is one of the things that happened. That whole Cable Junction was just a floating styrofoam and fiberglass construct.
Really?
Yeah, and they came out to film at it one day, and it had floated away. And they had to go miles out to tow. And somebody said, "Where's the island?" And somebody said, "Oh, it's on its way to Cuba." So they had to go out and pull it all the way back.
Hey,
didn't they say they had all kinds of trouble climbing up on that too? That they were always slipping and sliding on it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mean to tell movie people their business, but there are actual islands that you could probably rent for a lot less money than building one that is, as it is wont to do, will float away in the ocean. That's the. I don't know. I guess the 30 million had to go somewhere.
It had to go somewhere. Got to build Styrofoam Island. All right. Well, there's our review for Jaws 2. Probably a film that everybody listening has a very particular opinion of. This film either sits with you or sits against you, depending on your love for the original and if this soured it or supported it. Interesting film. It holds up better than I thought. I will say that.
It does hold up better. It holds up better than Jaws 3. I just watched that the other day for some reason, and no.
I might argue with that, but that's different.
Really?
For different reasons.
Okay.
If you want a comedy, that movie is so bad. No, it does not hold up in a true filmmaking thing. But maybe entertainment.
Maybe so.
It's Jeff. It's getting late, so I think we're going to have to push any feedback back to next week.
Okay.
And are we announcing the film for the next episode?
Sure. And now the screaming starts.
Yes.
That was not from watching Jaws 3.
No. Well, maybe in one scene, right? Right, Chad?
Peter Cushing, Herbert Lom, Patrick McGee.
That's a killer
Roy
cast right there.
Baker as the director.
Yeah. So we've talked about this one before. So is this an Amicus one? It is, right?
No.
I think we said it was Tygon.
Tygon.
We should know this, guys. Somebody look it up.
We'll know it by then.
I'm looking. It is Amicus. I'm sorry.
Is it?
Okay.
I thought it
It
was
is Amicus.
Yeah.
Doc is all over it.
Y'all pooping on me.
No. I'll turn in my card at the end of the show.
There you go.
At least we didn't think it was Hammer.
Well, thankfully we knew that. All right. Well, if you've listened this far, thank you so much. Please subscribe below. Hit the like button. Hit the bell to get notified. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Leave some reviews at iTunes so to help other people find us. We'd love to hear comments. Comment on the site or on YouTube. Want to hear from you. We talked for an hour on this, guys. That was fantastic. Chad, I keep wanting to call you Bruce. I don't know why. Because Bruce is dead. This is not Bruce. Who is this? This is Lady Bruce, right?
Brucetta. No,
Brucetta.
Bruce. Yeah, Brucetta.
Brucetta.
And Hilda.
No, I think Bruce. They called the 1 in 3 Brucetta because it was a female shark. But this was really supposed to be a female shark. But they never gave her.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't
they
be
didn't
Bruce,
get
but,
into that.
pregnant. Well, it could be. I mean, nowadays you could be Bruce, right?
Well, which reminds me of the Monty Python skit. Wouldn't it be easier if we just all called each other Bruce?
Yes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to remember names. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce. Jeff, Bill, thank you all for joining me tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good night,
Bruce.
folks.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.